I never expected a mountain to feel like the loneliest place on earth. Yet there I was, standing on the jagged edge of Pine Ridge, watching Liam pluck at his guitar strings with a mix of irritation and heartbreak in his eyes. "Do you always have to overthink everything?" I asked, laughing nervously, though my chest was tightening with something I couldn't name. He stopped midstrum, the chords hanging in the crisp mountain air like frozen notes. "Overthink? I'm not overthinking. You just don't notice things sometimes?" he muttered, not looking at me. That was Liam for you, dramatic, sensitive, and impossibly intense. And also heartbreakingly jealous. It had started 2 days ago, back in that tiny coffee shop in Aspen where I'd first met him. Liam, the young musician with golden brown hair that always fell in unruly waves over his forehead, had that kind of magnetic energy that drew people in. He played his guitar like he was trying to speak without words, every note dripping with emotion. I was captivated, but I'd never been good at reading emotions like his. "You're thinking about her again, aren't you?" Liam suddenly said, snapping me out of my thoughts. My stomach sank. "Her? Who?" I asked, though I knew exactly who he meant. "You know who," he said, narrowing his eyes. "That girl from the festival. You smiled at her." I wanted to laugh, but I felt my pulse quicken instead. "Liam, it was just a smile. You're reading too much into it," he groaned, tossing his guitar case onto the rocks beside him. "I hate that I feel this way," he admitted, his voice low, almost cracking. "I hate that it makes me want to grab you and never let you go." I froze, my heart skipping a beat. This was the Liam I loved and feared all at once. Passionate, messy, intensely jealous, yet with a depth that made you feel like you were the only person in the universe when he looked at you. The wind whipped through the pines, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers, and for a moment, the world seemed impossibly vast and achingly beautiful. I wanted to reach out to bridge the distance his jealousy had created, but before I could, he turned sharply and began walking toward the trail that led further up the mountain. "Liam, wait," called, but he didn't slow. I followed, my boots crunching against the gravel, trying to match his long strides. My chest hurt not from the climb, but from the tension between us. Every step felt heavier as he muttered under his breath about trust and assumptions, about things I hadn't even said aloud. By the time we reached a clearing that overlooked the valley, Liam had stopped again. The golden sunset painted the mountains in shades of fire and rose, and for a second, he just stood there, breathing heavily, letting the view take over. He looked small, vulnerable, and human in a way that made my chest ache. I wanted to tell him I loved him right then, that none of it mattered, that my feelings for him had always been stronger than any fleeting attraction to someone else. But the words stuck in my throat. Liam's pride, his intensity, his fear of being vulnerable was like trying to climb these mountains with bare hands. "You always think I'm dramatic," he said finally, his voice softer now, almost whispering. He didn't look at me. "Maybe I am, but I care too much." I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking, but he flinched slightly. Not from me, I realized, but from his own emotions, the walls he had built so carefully around his heart. "You don't have to care too much," I said gently. "Just care enough to let me be here with you." He finally turned, eyes glistening in the fading sunlight, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the boy behind the bravado, the one who just wanted someone to understand him without judgment. He opened his mouth, probably to say something fierce and protective, but instead, he only exhaled sharply, a sound that was both frustrated and tender. And then, just as quickly as it came, he spun away from me, striding toward the edge again, the golden light catching his hair. I wanted to reach out, to grab him, to stop him from letting his jealousy ruin this perfect moment, but I was too late. The wind carried his voice back to me, low and distant. I can't do this right now." I swallowed, the words hanging in my chest like a stone. That moment so close, so intimate slipped through our fingers. My hands itched to hold him, to tell him that I didn't care about anything else, only him. But I let him go, letting the silence stretch between us, heavy with unspoken feelings and lost opportunities. The valley below glimmered like a sea of gold and green, and for the first time, I realized that sometimes love isn't about grabbing hold, it's about waiting, about understanding, about seeing someone fully even when they can't see themselves. The night fell faster than I expected, wrapping the mountain in a velvet darkness sprinkled with stars. Liam had gone down the trail before me, leaving only the echo of his steps behind. I stood on the ledge, the cool wind tugging at my jacket, and finally allowed myself to feel the weight of what had almost slipped away, the connection between us, fragile yet undeniable. I took a deep breath, letting the crisp mountain air fill my lungs. It was then that I realized, if I didn't do something now, I might lose him, not forever, perhaps, but enough to leave scars neither of us could erase. My feet moved instinctively, descending the trail as fast as I dared, calling his name into the night. Liam, wait, please. He stopped mid-step, the beam of his flashlight bouncing across the rocks. What? He said, but there was no anger in his voice now, just hesitation, a subtle tremor that betrayed the storm inside him. I reached him, out of breath, and looked into his eyes. They were dark and deep, reflecting the night sky above, but softer than they had been at sunset. I don't care about her, I said firmly, taking a step closer. I care about you. Only you. Liam blinked, his jaw tightening, as though he were struggling with some inner battle. You don't understand, he whispered, his voice barely audible. I get jealous and then I push people away. That's all I know how to do. I reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from his face. Then let me teach you, I said softly, smiling despite the ache in my chest. Let me stay, even when you're afraid. I don't need perfection, Liam. I just need you. For a long moment he said nothing. The wind whistled around us, carrying the scent of pine and cold stone. Then, slowly, he lowered his gaze to meet mine, and in his eyes, I saw the barrier between us crumble, just a little. Without another word, he leaned in. His lips barely touched mine, tentative at first, testing the waters of trust and intimacy. And then, as if all the tension of the past days, the jealousy, the fear, the misunderstanding spilled out into the night, he pressed closer, wrapping his arms around me, holding me like he never wanted to let go. I closed my eyes, letting myself melt into the warmth of his embrace, feeling the pulse of his heart against mine. The world around us, the stars, the mountains, the vast valley below faded into insignificance. There was only this, Liam and me, together, fragile yet whole. We pulled back slightly, foreheads resting together, breathing in sync. You scared me, he admitted, a tiny smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. I thought I'd ruin everything. You didn't, I whispered. You just forgot to see that I was already yours. He chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to blend perfectly with the rustling of the trees and the distant call of night birds. Guess I still have a lot to learn, he said. About trust, about love, about letting someone in. I'll teach you, I said again, grinning now, and I promise I won't give up. The rest of the night passed like a dream. We sat together on the rocky ledge, Liam strumming his guitar softly, the notes weaving through the crisp night air. I leaned against him, letting the music wash over us, feeling the tension melt, replaced by a quiet, steady joy. At some point, we fell silent, simply watching the stars reflect off the distant peaks. I realized then that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect timing, it was about being present, about choosing each other again and again, even when life and fear tried to pull us apart. Liam shifted, resting his head on my shoulder. I've never felt this calm, he admitted, voice muffled against my chest. It's scary, but right, I agreed, smiling. The mountain, the night, the cold air, it all felt sacred in that moment. Somehow, against all the jealousy and misunderstandings, we had found each other again. As dawn approached, painting the peaks in soft shades of pink and gold, we packed up our things and began the slow trek back down. Liam's hand found mine, fingers intertwining naturally. No words were needed. The silence itself was enough, filled with the kind of understanding only two hearts that had almost broken together could share. By the time we reached the base of the mountain, the small town below was just waking. Morning light spilled over rooftops and streets, and Liam squeezed my hand. "Next time," he said softly, "I won't let jealousy get in the way." "You better not," I teased, nudging him gently. But inside, I was laughing with relief, with happiness, with the pure, unshakable certainty that we had survived the storm. We walked together toward the town, two young men bound by more than attraction, bound by the lessons we had learned, the moments we had almost lost, and the choice to stay. Liam hummed a soft tune, guitar slung across his back, and I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence. And for the first time in days, maybe even weeks, I felt completely at peace. The mountain had tested us, threatened to tear us apart, but it also reminded us why we belonged together. And as we disappeared into the streets of the waking town, hand in hand, I knew we were ready to face whatever came next together. Because love, messy and jealous and intense as it may be, is worth every near miss, every heartache, and every mountain we climb. And Liam's stubborn, passionate, beautiful Liam was finally mine, as I was his, in a way that was quiet, steady, and infinite. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.